happening, everybody? It's Jake Johnson. Welcome to Everything Wrong with Genesis, Sunday afternoon delight. It's good to be here. It's a fantastic Sunday for a all-in-all brawl, a good debate, good versus evil title fight. I think I'm ready. I think I'm up for it. What do you think? What's going on? Hey, Darlene, good to see you. April, Kevin, hats off to you. I don't wear a hat while I'm podcasting, but if I had one on, I'd take it off. What a lovely day. How is everybody? Had a short podcast on Friday. I wasn't feeling it, and neither was anybody else, so we just jumped in and jumped out. I think about 45 minutes all I did. And still doing the voice thing, still fighting it, still suffering, struggling. It's all right. It's getting better. Sound is distorted. 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2. Well, it shouldn't be. Back it off a little. How's that? Better? Tell me what you think. Everything should be functioning as supposed to be. How's it sound? You sure it ain't just my voice? Because my voice is kind of crackly. You're half asleep. What's up, Great Sky Troll? My wife wants to get a pug or a little French bully. Well, bully. It's the plug, bro. How about now? I don't hear anything distorting, but I'll check it out. Make sure I haven't accidentally bumped anything. Is it still lower? Hang on. What about now? Let me see. Still sounds like I'm underwater. And why would that be? Well, let me see here. It looks like it's supposed to be. It must be YouTube. Because it sounds fine coming from my side. Let me see here. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. How about now? Is that any better? Now we're just down to one microphone. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Sounds good to me. The shirt one's sketchy. Yeah, the battery must be dead. That must be what the problem is. Oh well, that's what you get when you buy cheap stuff. It runs on AA batteries instead of 9 volts. Okay. So we got that handled. 5 times 5. Yep, I need to buy some new batteries. That's okay. It happens. I can't think of everything. For whatever reason, I'm tasked to do this alone, so sometimes things slip by me, and that was one of them. Yeah, there's a shirt one. It's one of these. You see it? It's pretty nice, but it only lasts about 6 weeks and then it dies. I don't know how long we've been using it. Maybe 5 or 6 podcasts ago I got it. But now I got to have this one a lot closer because I don't have anything catching my voice. And I can't turn my head. I got to stay pretty close to this microphone. But we'll make it work. One second. There we go. That's better. I'm still dying inside. Still have no voice. I guess that's not going to go away anytime soon. Unless somebody can get their hands on some prednisone and send it my way. That'll help. Probably take about 5 days course of it. The last time I lost my voice was about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, somewhere around there. Around 2014, 15. It must have been 14 because it was before my mom died. So I lost my voice back then, and it was gone for an entire year. And I started doing some research because nobody seems to know what causes laryngitis or how to treat it. They just say drink lots of fluid and get bed rest. Well, I do that, so that's not helping. So I did a little research and I self-diagnosed that I needed some steroids to loosen the muscles in my neck and, ease up the tension on my lungs. And so I prescribed myself 5 milligrams of prednisone 3 times a day or whatever it was. I forget now. And maybe it was only once a day. I think prednisone is the one that you start out with 5 and work your way down to 1. Anyway, it worked, and got my voice back that week, and I was fine. So, but I had access to it back then. I was around a bunch of old people. I don't have it now, so I just have to live with no voice, I reckon. Go to the ER. I'm not going to the ER. You can forget that shit. Them people will kill you in there. I'll probably come out with COVID-19 and everything else. Your kids in quarantine here can't go back to school for 5 days. They haven't even let school start happening again here. We may have something I'll look for. That's okay. It's up to you. If you want to, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm just making conversation, baby. That being said, I wouldn't turn it down, but I'm not technically asking. I'm just telling you what the actual thing that would probably help would be. But believe me when I tell you, a person who speaks for a living does not like not having a voice. It's not pleasant. I can't count on it. I can't book on it. You know what I mean? I can't go out and set dates and things like that to speak because I don't know if I'll be able to. It's not fun. Anyway, for the reason we're all here, that crazy atheist, that zany guy, he's out there spreading his nonsense to the world, and it's my job to set him straight. So let's get on with it, shall we? This is number 9 of the friendly atheist. Not too bright, but he's friendly, all right.
Genesis 9. Noah gets drunk and naked. Biblical morality at its finest. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth and on all the birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and on all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands.
Yep.
Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything."
All right. This is a very important statement that was just made there. As I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. You must understand that before the flood, all things, everybody, ate herbs and seeds and fruit. They did not eat meat. They didn't like meat. They were against eating meat. Animals ate herbs and seeds and fruit also. And they were all non-violent. They weren't afraid of man because it wasn't in them to be afraid of man. That means that a lion, a lamb, and a child could have laid down beside each other and nobody would have been worried about getting hurt. That's the nature of animals back then. After the flood, everything's different because now you're in an empty world that's been destroyed. Everything's growing, so now everything's fair game. You must survive, so you must eat. Now you can eat meat. Now animals start being afraid of man. Now there's dread in the heart of animals. If you think animals aren't afraid of you, you haven't been around them very often.
Once again, God is telling Noah's family to fuck some.
Cute, but that's exactly what he's telling him to do. You know, there was more people on the ark besides just Noah, his 3 sons, and their 3 wives. There was also every flesh, 2 of every kind, 7 of some, 2 of others, clean and unclean. So there were people there to
Religious people point to these verses to justify why God opposes contraception.
No.
Be fruitful and multiply means no birth control and no condoms.
That is absolutely not what that means. There are dumb people in the world. You're one of them, so you should know this. People think all kinds of things. That doesn't make it true, and it certainly doesn't make it biblical. There's been lots of things based on the Bible. The Inquisition was based on the Bible. Doesn't make it right. Catholics are based on the Bible. Doesn't make them right either. Sorry.
For anyone, apparently, all because of this myth. And that line about how all creatures, all beasts of the earth will fear humans is just wrong. You think sharks are afraid of us?
Have you ever encountered a shark? Please do tell what it was like when you were face to face with a shark. As a guy who's from Florida, I can tell you that they are most definitely afraid of you and don't want to eat you, by the way. That's a movie thing. Most of them will take a bite. When they realize that they've bitten into a person, they'll move on. Unfortunately for you, their teeth are rather sharp and jagged, so that bite, that little nibble, probably took your leg off. But they didn't intend it that way. They're just trying to find some food. However, as a normal rule, animals stay away from people, including fish, which isn't an animal, by the way. Don't call people dumb. I didn't call people dumb. I said there were dumb people in the world, and there are. That's not my statement. It's just a fact.
Bears, lions, viruses. It's also horrible how all those animals survived the genocide by being on the ark, yet here's God giving them up for slaughter. Life is cruel.
Yes, life is cruel. It always has been. No one has ever said life was fair or that life would be good, just that you would have it. And you have had it. Here you are. Now, God's not offering all the animals up to slaughter. He had animals brought for slaughter, yes, because that's called a sacrifice. And what do you do with a sacrifice once you're done sacrificing it? You eat it. So it was food.
But wait, there's hope. But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it.
Correct.
Eating animals is fine, just no cannibalism.
Do I need to explain to you what the word cannibalism means? It does not mean to eat things with lifeblood in it. Now, I know you're a vegan, so you wouldn't understand this process, but when you kill something, the very next thing you must do is drain it from its blood. This is done usually by skinning the animal, hang it up or whatever, however you do it, and you let the blood come out of the meat. Then you put it in the freezer or refrigerator and you let even more blood come out of the meat. And then when you're ready to cook it, you thaw it out and wash it, and the rest of the blood comes off, and what is still left in the meat gets cooked out when you cook it. You're not to eat the life blood. This is very important because blood is where the life is. That's not to say you can't eat the meat, you just can't eat the blood. But that doesn't mean that that's cannibalism. Only if you eat the lifeblood of another person, then you're committing cannibalism. That's to eat your own flesh, or your own kind of flesh.
Got it. Slaughter them, squeeze out their insides, then eat them. It's kosher that way. I have never been more proud to be a vegetarian. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal.
An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This is just backing up that sentiment.
And from each human being, too, I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. An accounting from every animal.
This is the live by the sword, die by the sword sentiment.
Were murdered. That's my accounting. Thanks for nothing, God. Do you think anyone in Noah's family is like, can I go back on the ark? This is way too complicated.
Well, I tell you what. Lock yourself in a box for over a year and tell me if you want to go back in it when you get out of it. Sorry. You're in the wrong here. Also, God created the world. If he destroys it, that's not murder. It's his. He can do with it as he wishes.
By the way, all this talk about why it's so wrong to take the lifeblood of another creature is part of why Jehovah's Witnesses refuse blood transfusions. They consider that against God's will.
Again, there's dumb people in the world, and people believe all kinds of things. You know that back in the 80s, there was a group of people that thought that they were going to catch a ride on a comet and go to heaven, so they immediately cut off all their balls and then committed mass suicide. But not before they cut off their balls. I don't know where they got that from, but I can assure you whoever wrote whatever they were reading didn't intend it that way.
How many people have needlessly died because of these verses?
Thousands, which is why I behoove you to understand what you're reading. And also get a real Bible, because your little book here leaves out quite a few things concerning the blood and concerning how they're to handle that. So if you read an actual Bible, a King James Version Bible, the older the better, you will get the real meaning for what's being said here in all these places where you have confusion. That's why I'm here, to correct you on it.
Whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed.
Yes.
For in the image of God has God made mankind.
No.
As for you, be fruitful.
For in the image of God made the Adamic race, which is somebody that Noah's a part of that race. You need to understand that there's other people in the world.
And increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it. God just said if you kill someone, then you deserve to be killed.
Yes.
God just sanctioned the death penalty. That
Yes.
doesn't even make sense though, because when Cain killed his brother earlier, God put a mark on Cain so that no one else would kill him.
Yes, because his punishment was much, much worse than death. Also, Cain was not entirely a human being. So that, I would imagine, and I'm just paraphrasing here and guessing, spitballing because I don't know and it's not made clear, but I would say that the rules for celestial beings is probably different than for terrestrial beings. So there could be a reason for Cain not being killed, and also that was a long time ago. This is a new part of the world with a new set of rules after the flood, a new covenant. So the rules have changed.
How come Cain didn't have to be executed? The biblical justice system is the worst.
No,
and
it's
also,
not.
why?
It's the most just. It's the system in which our judicial system is based mostly. It used to be entirely, but they're trying very hard to change it now. They're going to fail.
Why is God so obsessed now with populating the earth? He just killed off 99% of humanity.
You just answered your own question. He just killed off 99% of humanity, which is why he's so obsessed with refilling the earth. Think, man. Come on. Come on, man.
Did he finally realize his big mistake?
It's not a mistake.
Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you,
Yes.
and with every living creature that was with you.
Which means new rules. New game, game, set, match, new game, new rules.
The birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. Everyone who died during Hurricane Katrina is like, God is such a liar.
First of all, God is not a liar. And you need to get that filth out of your mouth and off of your tongue, because that will send you straight to hell, buddy. Second of all, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Florida, and parts of Texas does not the whole world make. That's a little portion of the world. And C, Hurricane Katrina was not a flood. It was a hurricane. Yes, it flooded, but it was due to a hurricane. And some people believe, you know those dumb people we were talking about earlier? I don't necessarily subscribe to this belief, but some people believe that that was a man-made hurricane, and that is possible. And if you don't believe that, look into two events. Look into HAARP, which is in Alaska, and what they do there, and look into cloud seeding in Mumbai, and you tell me if they can't make a hurricane. They most certainly can. Did that happen in this case? I don't know. I don't think so, but it's possible. But if that were the case, then man would be responsible for that, not God. So you need to check your P's and Q's because you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Also, there has not been a worldwide flood since the worldwide flood, and there won't be one.
But okay, let's hear more about this covenant. And God said, this is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you.
Yep.
A covenant for all generations to come.
That includes you.
I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth.
Now, this is another one of those places where your book gets it wrong because the Bible says, I have set mine bow in the cloud. It does not specify rainbow. We assume that he's talking about a rainbow because that's the only bow we can see in the clouds. It more likely is talking about a rainbow, but I'm just telling you, that's not what the book says. So, take that for what you will.
Whenever I bring clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures of every kind on the earth. So God said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all life on the earth.
And so
here's how immoral God is.
God is not immoral. He's the author of morality, which means he invented the rules of morality. You have no place to call him immoral. You are as a filthy rag as in comparison to him. You have no place in judgment. You need to back down.
He's saying he might be tempted to murder all of humanity again.
Destroy, not murder. It's God. He owns you. He can kill you if he wants to. Death doesn't mean the same thing to him as it does to you. It's not murder.
To stop him from doing that, he's gonna put rainbows in the sky. That way if he sees one,
yes, I would love to go to dinner with you. I'll take a steak, please.
He'll think, oh, right, no genocide. Whoops, close one. I don't need a reminder not to murder people. You don't either. That means we are both better people than God.
Well, God's not a person, so yes, you're correct. We are both better people than God. However, God created us, which makes him a better being than us. So you should probably recognize the hierarchy that's going on here and put some distance between your gums. Or you know what I meant. Shut your
Rainbows
mouth.
don't always show up when there are clouds over the earth, or even after there's rainfall. What is God talking about?
He's talking about following the rules, because he destroyed the world for you not following the rules, and you're not following the rules again, which means you probably should fix that, or it's going to happen again in a different way.
And just to state the obvious, rainbows show up due to sunlight and raindrops. They were around more than a few thousand years ago. God didn't just poof them into existence after a global flood so they could function like an alarm on your phone.
A rainbow is a prism where light strikes water that's in the atmosphere and causes a prism effect, which can only be seen from a certain vantage point, which is why you can never get to a rainbow, because when you get close to it, you see the water that's beyond it and you see the rainbow there, and it's always away from you. You can't get under it, you can't get in it. You may be in it, but you can't see it while you're in it. Now, before the flood, it didn't rain that much. Matter of fact, the dew would come from the ground. If you don't believe that, go outside about 4 a.m. this morning, maybe 4:30, and just sit down on the ground and wait. And you'll start to notice how everything just kind of becomes wet. That's a mist that comes up from the ground. It has been doing this since the beginning of time. Therefore, in the old days, it did that even more, because there were bigger plants and bigger land masses, and it didn't rain a whole lot. It was a shock to them when it rained for 40 days. They didn't believe Noah when he told them the rains were coming, because it hardly ever rained. Sorry about the noise. My computer's having a conniption fit. So when it did rain, it was like a sprinkle. It never rained hard, which means that the atmosphere, which at that time had a covering over it, which would change the way that the UV rays went through the atmosphere, and you could not have seen a rainbow in those days because the atmosphere was thicker and it was covered and protected, and it didn't rain that much, so there was not that much convection going on. After the flood, you could see a rainbow because now the UV rays came through the sun, came through the clouds a lot stronger than they used to, changing the way you see light. Think about it.
The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Yes.
Ham was the father of Canaan.
Yeah.
These were the three sons of Noah.
It's important to note that Ham went upwards into Africa. Shem went to the east into China and Asia and that area. And Japheth went over the Caucasus Mountains. And Noah went home to Egypt. So you can see the spread of humanity and who was who by that traveling.
And from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. We all descended from Noah.
Yep.
Earth is just one big pile of incest.
And because Noah was a descendant of Adam and his wife too, that's why they say that Eve is the mother of all living, because of what Noah and his wife and his children and their wives did. Not because of Eve, but because of her descendants. And because of that, because the whole world was destroyed and only the Adamic race was surviving and propagating with whatever was left, they call her the mother of all living. And she is.
Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard.
Man of the soil. That means Adam, Eth ha-Adam. To be ruddy complected, to show blood in the face, or to come from the dirt. That tells you who he is.
When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father naked. What?
That's awful peculiar, isn't it? That's an odd way to behave. You'd think that men that lived on a boat would have seen each other naked before, or men that grew up together and hunted together and lived in the same home. You'd think they would have seen nakedness. and their behavior is just a little bit weird. That's not how you would act if you saw somebody naked. And Noah's response to that is also very weird. Let me explain this to you. To uncover one's nakedness is a Hebrewism. It's a figure of speech used in those days. According to MessianicRevolution.com, nakedness of thy father is referring to a homosexual act. The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness, in Leviticus 18:7. And it happens again in other places in the Bible, and it's a little bit more clear in those places. This guy says, I want to take a closer look and define the two terms that appear quite frequently in the Bible: to uncover one's nakedness and his own flesh. To uncover one's nakedness means a sexual body part of the male or female or the sexual relations in general. His own flesh means one's close relative. And there's more, but you get the point. What happened was Noah got drunk and fell asleep in his dwelling, uncovered and unclothed. Stop that. And Ham came along and saw it. And then hijinks ensued. Now you can take for that what you will, but I can assure you that what happened was Ham did something untoward with his father. And it was a bad thing. And you should probably understand Noah's reaction to it when you understand what the two brothers discovered that their third brother had done. And then they walked backwards in humility to cover their father and protect him. And then, when he came to his senses, he cursed Ham and his descendants because of his actions, which were of a sexual nature towards his father.
Noah built his own winery, got so wasted that he stripped down to nothing, then fell over like a drunk frat boy. This is the best representative for humanity God could find?
Getting drunk ain't a sin. And have you never been drunk? And he was in his own house, and his kids were away, and it was his own wine, so there's no harm there. So you're wrong in assuming that that means something bad.
He's about 600 years old right now.
He's about 700 to 800 years old now. You got to understand, they've had time to build dwellings and grow wineries. They didn't just walk off the ark yesterday, and he was 600 when he started building it. So that time took place. And then the flood happened, which was over a year. So he's probably pretty close to death right now. He only lived 900 and something years. 950, I think. Just off the top of my head. I don't know what's going on with my computer. It keeps seeing and not seeing one of my hard drives and making that racket.
That could not have been pretty. And I want you to ask yourself, when Noah wakes up from his drunken stupor in a moment, who is he gonna blame? The answer should be himself.
No, it shouldn't.
But it won't be. When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of..."
Notice that he said what his youngest son had done to him, not what he had seen. So he didn't just see him naked. That's not what happened.
"Slaves will he be to his brothers." Jesus! What did Canaan do?
They are the descendants of a rapist.
He's the son of the guy who told his brothers about their drunk dad so that they could cover him up.
Leave it to a Democrat to try to cover up a sexual abuse. But let me assure you that the punishment was just.
And yet Noah just punished Ham by sentencing Ham's son to slavery. That is some serious...
Not his son, all of his son's sons. All of Canaan. Not just Ham's son. He not only cursed Ham, he cursed his entire lineage. And to this day, those people are still in slavery positions. You might wonder why that is. It's because their DNA is of a corrupt sort.
Crazy alcoholic behavior right there. Canaan did nothing wrong. Ham did nothing wrong either. He saw.
I don't know if you would consider that nothing wrong, considering what he did was very wrong and against God and against the Bible and a bad thing against his father. So yeah, he did wrong.
His drunk father and thought, he needs help. But he's getting punished. Again, what is up with biblical justice?
I don't know. Why don't you try sodomy and see where it gets you? I mean, I'm assuming you haven't tried sodomy. You look like the kind of guy who has kids. I don't know.
And no joke, these verses have been used to justify actual slavery. A bunch of ancient myth tellers said God cursed the Canaanites, and countless people were subjugated for centuries.
No, you see, Noah cursed the Canaanites, not God. Noah. Noah cursed the Canaanites, not God. Now, yes, there are some dumb people in the world, and they believe a lot of dumb things. The Bible did not say that slavery was justified, but there is a such thing as indentured servitude, and in those days, a lot of people were involved in indentured servitude. It has been that's the way of the world to this very day. Right now, in almost every other country, slavery is going on as we speak. This is the country that abolished slavery, not propagated it. So when you're out there marching with your little signs and whatnot, you need to remember that right now, today, in countries right next door, slavery is alive and well and happening all around. This is the country that abolished it.
Because of it. He also said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth."
And God may have answered his prayers, and he may have granted him those requests. But that wasn't God's doing. That was God respecting Noah's wishes. But it was Noah that cursed Canaan, not God.
Calm down, drunk man. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years.
Okay, that tells you how old he was. 950 minus 350 is... There you go.
Noah lived a total of 950 years, and then he died. Drink wine, kids. It'll keep you alive longer. I guess the...
Actually, a little wine is good for the sake of the stomach. The Bible tells you that and prescribes it. A little wine, not a lot. You don't need to get hammered to appreciate the beneficial effects of wine. Wine is the purest form of fermentation of fruit. It is very good. It's the Yahweh or Yahya that they call it in those tongues. And what it is, it means the best of the fruit. And it is a thing that Jesus talked about, and all of his parables were based on the making of wine or the growing of the fruit that makes the wine. And so you need to understand that a little wine is good for you, not bad for you.
Good news is that he didn't have any more children. Sucks for Canaan, though. Whenever someone tells you the Bible is a good book, just remember that many Christians think a drunk, naked man who cursed his grandchild into slavery for no good reason is everybody's ancestor.
Did I lose everybody? Are we still here? Are you still here? Speak to me. I think that my internet cut on and off while I was talking, and I might have missed everything. Are you still here? According to my stuff, we're still online and everything's good. Yep, you're here. Did you hear all of that? Did you get to the end there? Or did I lose you at any point? Okay. Well, if you heard all that and everything's good and we didn't lose each other, then by all means, if you have any questions, fire away. But before we get into that, let me say real quickly to like, subscribe, and share. Hit that bell icon so that you'll get notifications when you know I'm here. Follow one of the links in the description below. Get yourself a t-shirt or a baseball cap or a face mask or a fanny pack or a beach towel or an automobile cover or whatever the hell they're selling over there. And I get a little piece of that. But if you really want to support my ministry, if you want to help me out, if you want to keep coming to this thing, if you want me to keep helping you, if I've helped you, and if you want me to keep doing it, go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand and support my ministry. Every little bit helps. It's a tax write-off, and you can feel good about what you're doing because we're building a ministry here. Little piece, one subscriber at a time. So help us out. All right. Questions and answers. I'm ready to go. I got my brain primed, and I'm ready to answer all your questions. Full of research. Hey, Missy doll. Didn't see you pop in there. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what point you came in, but I hope you saw it all. All right. I'm just waiting for I think we got a little bit of a delay going on here because my computer's acting weird. I need a new one. I'll just blather on until the question arises. No, it didn't cut off. Good. It looked like it did, and for a moment my display disappeared, but I didn't know how long. Hey, miss. Good. Glad to hear it. So, that was quite a frothy little excursion into Genesis. I hope that you learned a lot, and I hope you understood where I was coming from. I know there's one glaring point that everybody has questions about, and I'm ready to explain it. And that would be the uncovering the nakedness part, which has gone undiagnosed for many, many years. But as I can properly show you in Hebrew texts and in the teachings of the Jews, that very specifically means a specific thing. And it also is backed up at least 3 times in the Bible and other places that's what that means. So to uncover one's nakedness is to have a sexual act with them. And that's what Ham did. Which is why he and his descendants were cursed. Now there are some people that think that means that Ham and his descendants were black people because of that curse. That is not what that means. That's not correct. That's false teaching, so don't get that in your head. They were cursed, but they didn't get turned black. There were black people in the world in those days too. Hate to tell you, but they were created before we were. So, on the 6th day, God created all mankind. That means all the races, black people included. It was after that he created Adam, which is the Adamic race, which is where all the tribes come from. The 12 tribes, which is what most of us are a part of. Some of you might not be, and that's not your fault. If you accept Christ, you are of the descendants of Abraham. It's stated very clearly in the Bible that you are his child and you are heir to the promise. So all you have to do is accept Christ. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or black or white or Hispanic or Puerto Rican or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is, are you a Christian? Do you believe in Christ? And if you believe in Christ, you are an heir to the promise of Abraham. If you want to know what that is, read the Bible. We'll get there, though. I'll tell you about it. After I'm done with this atheist guy, which is going to be a while, because he's got a lot of material to go through, and I may actually make the podcast longer so I can get there quicker. Either way, after that, I'm going to start in Genesis and work my way through the Bible, doing the exact same thing, only with the Bible instead of the atheist. And that way you won't always have to listen to somebody blaspheming it over my shoulder. Yes, grafted in. That's correct, Missy. It's very important to know that too, because a lot of people think that if they're not a descendant of a certain group of people, that they don't get to go to heaven, or that there's something wrong with them, or that the Bible doesn't represent them, or something like that. But that's not true. The reason Christ came is so that the dogs, even the dogs, would get scraps from the master's table. You have to understand that there is a chosen people. What they're chosen for might surprise you, but they are chosen. But there's also people that God created, whether they're chosen or not. And they're all given a choice, and that's to follow Christ or not. That's the point of the New Testament. That's the point of the New Covenant, is so that everybody has a chance. And when Christ died, he prepared places for us in heaven so that we all could go there. You know, before Christ, we didn't go to heaven. We went to Abraham's bosom, which is like a waiting room. And there's two sides, a good side and a bad side. It's kind of like the Schwartz. You got the upside and the downside. And the two can see each other, but they can't interact. There's a great gulf between the two. What are they chosen for? Well, they are to be a peculiar people. They're the Jews. That is of the tribe of Judah only, specifically them, to be very peculiar. They have a lot of rules to follow, a lot of weird things that I don't fully understand because I'm not Jewish. They have a lot of traditions and a lot of feasts and a lot of dates on the calendar that they have to keep certain rituals for, because they were chosen to suffer. There's also another group of people called the elect, which is 144,000 men who are virgins, who have not committed any sin. They do not have free will. They are not able to make their own choices. They are the elect. And that 144,000 will be taken off of this earth before the tribulation. And a lot of people confuse that with what they think is the rapture, which is talked about in Thessalonians. But if you read the whole thing and not just that one verse, you'll find out that Paul is telling his people not to be idiots and think that people can teach other people to fly to save their souls, because that's not what happens. You want to be left doing the work. You don't want to be taken from the field. Everything Christ said was about doing the work, about working, about being accountable, about being responsible. If you're lollygagging and you get taken out of the field, you are not the good guy. This is my teaching. I may be wrong, but prove me wrong. Find out that I'm wrong. No, the elect is not only Jewish. I would say they're probably Levites, because that's the priest line. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Might be a little bit from each tribe, I don't know. The Bible never clearly states who the elect are, just that there's 144,000 of them, and that they're virgins, and that they don't have free will. Sorry about being out for a minute. We had to run into Chili's, and then it rained. Wow. Well, I'm glad you're back. I often check out and come back. Okay, Missy says they're all from each of the 12 tribes. So there's a little bit from each tribe. That stands to reason. It makes sense. So are we saints or just God's children? We're just God's children. There are no such thing as saints. That's a Catholic tradition. Catholics are wrong. Catholics are of the synagogue of Satan. You got to understand where the Catholics came from. You know, back in the day when they're talking about the synagogues and the Sanhedrin and the dodecahedron worship and all of that stuff, where, you know, the high priests cried, murder him, crucify him, those people became Catholics. that we have today, that we enjoy in this world today. Also, the Vatican is full of idols and satanic things. Full of it. Full of it. Just go look at some pictures. It's disgusting. They break every commandment just by looking at the place. We are about to order. That says writer, but I'm guessing order. What do you want? Well, it'll take me about 8 hours to get there, so I'd say let's wait. What were they? What were what? They who? You'll wait for me? Just look on the menu and find out how much a steak is and drop that in my PayPal and I'll go pick up a steak and we can eat together. How about that? I don't really feel like driving to Florida tonight. Oh, Leviticus? The Levites? Is that what you're asking about the Levites? The Levites are of the priest line. Each tribe has a moniker. Judah is the lion or the king. Levi is the priest, so forth and so on. I don't know all of them, but you get the idea. Oh, Vatican. The Vatican is where the Pope lives in Italy. And the Vatican is a country unto itself. It is a walled-in country inside of another country. And from that, the Pope rules many different lands. At one time, the French and all of the countries surrounding were actually, they owed fealty to the Pope. They had to ask the Pope for permission. They had to borrow money from him to do wars and things like that, which is a large portion of what the Inquisition was really about. Trying to get money back. The Knights Templar were murdered because they had debt on the Pope, and the Pope, Philip, I believe it was, ordered their deaths on October 13th, on a Friday. The Vatican is slam full of satanic things and idols and false gods and false teachings, and the whole Catholic ordeal, all of it, it's idolatry. There's no other way to see it. The Bible talks about the harlot in Revelations, and it's talking about the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the Romans specifically. The Lightning play tomorrow. They do not have any Levites on their team. I don't know if they do or not. Seriously. Where does the Catholics get the additional books that they added to the Bible? I have already wondered about that. Do you know? Yes, I do know. And in 1066, there was a gathering. It's called the Council of Nicaea. And Pope Atheist was there. King Atheist and Pope. I want to say Francis. I'm pulling all this off the top of my head, so if I get anything wrong, just know that it ain't because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's because I don't have all the details in front of me. But what they did was they pulled all of the religions together and locked them in a room and refused to let anyone leave until all of them could agree on canon, the Bible. One Bible for everybody, because at that time, every Bible was a little different. And some of them still exist. The Philippines have their own Bible. The Pope has his own Bible. There's still some around. The Germans have their own Bible and so forth. But at this Council of Nicaea, the Catholics, the Protestants, the Jews, all of them got together, and they were locked in a room, and they were nobody allowed to leave until everybody agreed this is canon. And they threw out a lot of things and they added a couple things and they all came to a consensus. This is the Bible. That's the Bible that proceeded from that point. As I've said before, and I'll say again, if God could ordain man to write the Bible in the first place, he could ordain them to change it and keep it up to date along the way. So we have a good copy of the original text in the King James Version, and I've already explained before how the three different branches of translations came about, from the Alexandrians and from the other people and so forth and so on. But we have the most clean copy, and that's the King James Version. And it was translated over 50 times each book, and then handed down to another guy and translated again 50 times to get the correct translation. That happened with King James and his 50 high academic people. So books like the Book of Enoch or the Gospel of Thomas and things like that, the Book of Jasher, the Book of whatever. Some Bibles contain them, some Bibles have thrown them out. The Book of Enoch was thrown out because it gets a lot into the angels and what they did. It was a little too supernatural, and they wanted to keep things clean. You know, this is a clear lineage from Genesis to Revelations, and they threw out anything that complicated it more so than it already is. Hope that helps. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Catholic Church isn't the Antichrist. Well, it's funny you should say that, because the word Pope, what he describes himself as, calls himself the vicar of Christ, which means in the place of Christ. You can even translate the word Pope into not or Christ on earth. He claims to be able to forgive you of your sins and absolve you. They changed the 10 Commandments from 10 to 9 and then broke 1 and 2, so they still had 10. They took a commandment out. He checks every single box that describes the Antichrist. So yes, more than likely, the Antichrist will come from the Catholic Pope, whomever he may be at the time, or from one of the archdioceses or one of the cardinals or whatever. He'll be in that area for sure, because the Catholic Church does tick all the boxes. That's very astute of you to notice that, because it's very true. All righty. Well, I don't understand why there are all these different religions. Do you? Yes, I do. All a religion is one man's interpretation of what the truth is, and his undying belief in it. If you take all of the religions and put them together, you will see that they all shed some light on the actual events that occurred. For example, the Islamic faith and our faith is the exact same faith. It's only missing one detail, and that's Christ. That happens to be the most important detail, but that's the difference. So yeah, there are all different factions of people that have spread all over the world, and they carried with them their idea of what the truth was. You can see a good example of this by reading about when Egypt sacked Jerusalem. If you go to Egypt and read what the Pharaoh wrote about his conquests, you'll read a particular story about his battles. And then if you go to Jerusalem and read their idea of what happened, it's the same event, but it's got two completely different perspectives, because it comes from two different perspectives. Whereas the Egyptians thought that they were doing something great by conquering Jerusalem, the bad guys, in their opinion, Jerusalem thought that they had lost a great battle because they lost the temple of God. So it just depends on where you're standing as to what you believe. A large part of that is fate. It's circumstance. It's a roll of the dice. You could just as easily have been born in Africa, but you just happen to be born into your body. And that has a large part to do with what religion you are. But also, there's the age of accountability. And when you reach that age and you understand that you're responsible for your consequences of your actions, then it's up to you to learn the truth, to seek it out, to seek the kingdom of God. The Bible says, seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened. Not sit there in the dark and wonder what's going to happen and hope you're going to be okay. So it's up to you at some point in your life to seek out the truth, to find new civilizations, and to boldly go where no man has gone before. Okay. The atheist is actually very funny. He is at times. I laugh a lot at his comments in the sense of how he's saying them. However, I have always thought like him that Ham got a raw deal. He did not. He sexually molested his father. Noah got drunk and was naked just because he saw him naked. You must not have heard my podcast. I'll say it again for clarity. The way that story is told is very peculiar in their actions. And it seems like Noah overreacts to what appears to be Ham seeing him naked. First of all, to uncover one's nakedness is to have sexual relations with them. This is backed up 3 or 4 times in the Bible. And you can look up, I believe it was MessianicRevolution.com, I believe is the website I cited, or MessiahRevolution.com, something like that. You can find it. All you got to do is type in, what does it mean to uncover thy father's nakedness? And you'll find websites that describe this is a Hebrew expression, right? The Hebrews have things called figures of speech. And one of them is to uncover thy father's nakedness. And that means to have sex with him or his wife. And in this case, it was Noah, who was in his own home asleep. And his son came in, saw him naked. And then his other 2 sons, out of respect for their father, walked in backwards and covered him and protected him from his other son, Ham, who had already molested him sexually. When Noah came to his senses and realized what had happened, he cursed Ham and his descendants. Ham did not get a raw deal. He should have been killed on the spot, but his father loved him. Harsh or not, Ham got a little frisky and he shouldn't have. And as a result, to this very day, his descendants, if you know who the Canaanites are, and you can do some research and find out who they are very much in a state of slavery. And they always will be. And there will never be a way to fix that, because that's what Noah asked for, and God possibly granted him that. Now, he didn't kill his son, and he didn't prevent his son from having offspring. But he was not the greater of the 3 sons. Japheth and Shem went on to create great countries, but Ham's descendants always played slavery to them all. Now, earlier in the podcast, I told you that Ham went upwards into Africa. Shem went out towards Asia and the Eurasian areas. Japheth went over the Caucasus Mountains and out towards America and England and all that area. And Noah went home to Egypt. And you can see where all of the people came from and the civilizations that sprang up in those areas from those people when they split off and went their separate ways. And you'll note that all of the people in this area always play slavery to the other countries. Always have. They've always been second fiddle. Well, that's a divine intervention. There's nothing you can do about that. You can hate it all you want, but that's the way it is. Hope that helps. Next. What you got, Missy? Hit me with a hard one. Are you still here, Missy, or did you tap out already? You lightweight. I'm ready to rock and roll. It's only 9 o'clock. The night is young and I'm excited. Feels like it's later than 9 o'clock though, doesn't it? Eastern Standard Time, that is. April says, I know what you mean now. Well, I hope so. I hope I was clear in my description of it. I think she's going. I think she is too. What about you? You got anything for me? Or you just want me to keep rambling? Isn't the podcast over at 9? Damn, Darlene. Slap the whip, why don't you? It's 9:30. It usually lasts about an hour. And as I'm still here talking to you, it's clearly not over yet. I'm sorry. You want me to go home? Take my little ball and go home? Darlene's like, I enjoyed it and all, but enough is enough. Okay, fine. Have it your way. Please do like, subscribe, and share, and follow the podcast. And hit that bell icon. Make sure you do that. You're having trouble hearing. We are at Chili's. We got fajitas. Sounds good. Enjoy that. If you like what I'm offering, and if I've helped you in some way, and if you wish for me to keep helping you, please support my ministry at paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. And also, tune in every Sunday at 8 o'clock. We also have podcasts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30, but that's a different thing. That's a little more laid back. That's a little more fun. When I have a voice, I play a little music and chit-chat and have a good time. That's all lightweight stuff. Sundays is for the heavy hitting. So please do join, and I hope that you had a good time tonight. I hope you learned a lot. I love you, and I will see you Monday night at 8:30. Peace out and have a great night.